With 1 week to go, the Boston mayor's race is still way too close to call, which means current Mayor Tom Menino could play kingmaker if he wanted. But while there are subtle signs that Menino may prefer John Connolly to Marty Walsh, the mayor seems inclined to stay out of the electoral fray. WGBH political reporter Adam Riley has more.
As Boston Mayor Tom Menino prepares to leave office after 2 decades, he's giving his successor some very public advice. Yesterday at the New England Aquarium, Menino urged the next mayor to make climate change a top priority.
Mayors had a responsibility to push the envelope to make sure we are reducing greenhouse gas emissions and preparing for climate change.
That counsel was clearly aimed at John Connolly and Marty Walsh. But afterward, when I asked Menino if Connolly and Walsh take environmental issues seriously enough, he clammed up.
Well, they have to ask them.
No thoughts, given how important this is to you?
Some of those trick questions trying to bait me to this campaign.
And that's the tightrope Menino is trying to walk. He still wants to shape Boston's future, but so far he's stopped short of making an endorsement. Maybe that's because Menino has some baggage with both candidates. Connolly launched his run for mayor before Menino announced his retirement, which made Menino bristle.
He wants to be mayor? Elect him.
But sources tell us that Menino may prefer Connolly to Walsh for reasons political and personal. Either way, as he offered advice to the next mayor yesterday, Menino didn't sound like he has a favorite.
People have to trust you because sometimes there's decisions you make that aren't the most popular decisions. But the public will say, well, we believe in the mayor, we're going to go along with the mayor on this issue. It's trust. Trust is a big part of being mayor of the city of Boston.
And for their part, both mayoral candidates scoff at the suggestion that Menino wants Connolly to win.
I wish. Okay. But I think the mayor has been clear that he is neutral and on the sidelines here. And, I'm thankful that he has done that.
I don't think the mayor's involved. And if the mayor got involved, I don't think the mayor could do it quietly. So Mayor Menino would put it, if he was with somebody, he'd put it out there.
For now, that's something Mayor Menino hasn't done.
All right, Adam Riley is here along with Boston Magazine senior editor Jason Schwartz, who contributed to the special issue that dubbed Mayor Menino a petty, thin-skinned, ruthless SOB who just may be the best mayor we've ever had. It was a great title. Definitely. So, he has really played this, very close to the vest, Adam. I don't think he's tipped his hand one way or the other. He was annoyed with John Connolly early on, but, this has got to be really hard for the mayor to sit on his hands.
Oh, I think it'd be incredibly difficult. But on the other hand, if you imagine being him and being, sort of approaching the home stretch of this almost year-long farewell tour that he's been on, when everyone is just showering him with praise and talking about how wonderful he was for Boston, including both candidates, people will criticize sort of outcomes like in the Boston public schools, but no one wants to directly criticize Mayor Menino. It would be really, really tough to spend the year the way he's spent it and then go out by trying to back your preferred candidate and losing. And then that would be sort of the way you ended your mayoral tenure. So I think, among other things, he doesn't want to do that.
Now, when you did the big piece on him, did you guys press him at all on this?
We actually didn't talk to him, but I agree with Adam. There's a lot of talk that he's getting behind, John Connolly, that he doesn't like Marty Walsh. Yeah, he doesn't like John Connolly a lot either. All the way back at the beginning of the campaign, I think it was probably May or June, I had lunch with someone from inside City Hall, pretty close, and they said, I can't really see him getting involved in this race unless, maybe John Connolly makes it to the final, because that's how much he doesn't like John Connolly. And here we are today, and we're talking about the opposite. So.
That's very
and people are saying, his operatives are helping this one and that one, but it seems like the operatives have pretty much gone to the candidates that they prefer.
It does
They're not
seem that
being
way. And,
sent there by the mayor.
And the Menino donors, one of the pieces of evidence that's held out to suggest that Connolly's really his guy in secret is that big Menino donors have given money to Connolly. And I was talking with someone close to the mayor the other day who said that, in a case like that, it probably would be natural that those donors would give the mayor a courtesy call first just to say, hey, how do you feel about this? So, I guess he could, in theory, tell them, no, don't give to Connolly. And the fact that he didn't maybe suggest that he's okay with Connolly becoming mayor. But on the other hand, his kind of longtime political consigliere, Ed Jesser, gave $500 to Marty Walsh recently. So you can find the tea leaves that you want and read them the way you want. And my hunch is that he's not going to do anything subtle or overt to try to affect the outcome.
So I want to get your reactions. The debate was last night. I've lost track of time because this Red Sox thing's kind of like moving things at a very fast pace. But there was a debate last night carried by the media consortium. We aired it here on WGBH, but moderator R.D. Saul asked the question to both of them, but I think Marty Walsh answered first.
Connolly
answered first about
Walsh, yeah.
racism in the Boston Police Department, and here's what that answer was.
There's racism in all of Boston, institutional, systemic, structural racism, and we can see that in the Boston Police Department when we can look out and see not a single captain of color in our districts and a command staff that's overwhelmingly white.
We talk about one Boston, and we don't see one Boston today in the city of Boston, and we need to deal with some of the issues of the Boston Police Department. I completely agree with that.
Racism strikes me as intentionally slighting people of color. I mean, is that what they intended to say?
You know, I think what they were talking about is sort of the deep systemic problems we really do have in some of these institutions, especially the older, more rooted ones, the police, you know, the fire department, to do a little log rolling.
Every institution in America is like that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we've seen the fire department, you know, new chief comes in, a lot of pushback to these new ideas. Police, we all know that they don't have enough, you know, diversity in leadership ranks. To do a little log rolling, I was saying we have an interview. I have an interview with both these guys in our current issue, and I asked them, you know, do the fire department, do the police department need a culture shift? Connolly's, you know, as you saw, said pretty unequivocally, yeah, they do. Walsh hedged it a little bit, yeah. I mean, I think everyone thinks these institutions need to go in a different direction.
I think Jason's exactly right. When you look at the adjectives that Connolly used to answer the question he talked about, I think institutional, structural, and systemic racism. So he's really talking about not kind of outright racial antipathy, but, again, structures that have been in place for decades that have had the effect, intentional or not, of excluding minorities and advancing whites or benefiting whites. So I know a lot of people made a big deal out of that. Peter Kadzis, our GBH colleague, said, you know, I covered the busing battles of the 70s, and I really thought they kind of unfairly knocked Boston. But the key is thinking of it as an institutional, structural thing.
Well, one of the problems with using the term racism is sort of it's a throwback to those days, you know, busing, and when that was racism.
Well,
this is, you know.
You could make a case, I think, that it's a sign of how far Boston has come since the 1970s, that you've got, you know, two white Irish candidates for mayor, and there's this unanimity that the city still has, you know, sort of racial baggage that it needs to deal with. I mean, if someone told you, you know, I wasn't here in the 70s, but if you were here in the 70s watching the busing battles and someone told you that in 2013 the mayoral candidates would be named Connolly and Walsh would be saying this, you'd probably be blown away.
It struck me as sort of a very mature moment, actually, for the city, that we were able to discuss this without everyone totally hyperventilating and more sort of confronted as a fact of life than something totally controversial and salacious or whatever else.
So what's your ear to the ground telling you, Jason? I don't know if that debate last night moved anybody anywhere. Do you think it's... Do you have a prediction here? I
mean, I don't think that debate last night mattered that much. I mean, there's not been a lot of interest and enthusiasm in this race. We saw it in the preliminary. There's very low turnout. I think we're going to be talking about who has the best turnout machine, and right now Marty Walsh looks like he has the best turnout machine.
Yeah, not to sound like I'm copying everything Jason says, but I do think that there was a new UMass poll that came out today that showed Walsh ahead by 7 points, 47-40. Jason and I think, agree that seems a little excessive, but my assumption for a long time, and it remains unchanged, has been that the race is very close, and that in the final analysis, Walsh is going to be able to use his union support to pull people out more effectively than Connolly. So if I had to bet, I would bet on Walsh winning.
All right. Adam Riley, I'm not betting against you, but I'm not a gambler. Adam Riley, Jason Schwartz, thanks so much.
Thanks, Emily.